This video is brought to you by Green Man Gaming, who are running a special 20% off sale across almost every single game on their site, including Destiny 2's Witch Queen expansion. It's offer code FEB20 to get that discount, link below, but I'll talk about it some more at the end of the video. Gamers, what a month it has been. I've not slept in like 3 weeks. Company acquisitions, Dying Light 2, more company acquisitions, Sifu, Horizon Forbidden West, weekly news shows, maintaining my six-pack abs. No, wrong six-pack, Austin. This past 3 weeks has felt like 6 months worth of gaming news and releases, because it basically was. But that's okay, that's what keeps things interesting and fun, and like they say, you can sleep when you're dead. The news and releases keep on trucking this week with next-gen Cyberpunk and Elden Ring PC specs, and Lost Ark going completely batshit insane. So insane, in fact, that it's even roped in my editor Austin, who will this week be gracing us with a new edition of the highly requested Editor's Choice segment. It's a lot to get through this week, so let's not waste any more time, shall we? Here comes the news. By now you will have heard that Cyberpunk's next-gen update is up. It's out, and I don't know how it is yet. At the time of writing, the next-gen update was only just being pushed out onto servers, so I don't know if this runs well or if it's another disaster. I mean, I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt, but you know, once bitten, twice shy. Here's how it looks on spec though. The PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and S versions of the game are all getting a major update today that optimizes the game for next-gen platforms. You can expect 4K 60 FPS on both the PS5 and the Series X, with the Series S hitting 30 FPS at 1440p, which is a big drop. I mean, you'd think that with that much of a resolution drop, the S could have hit 60 FPS, but apparently not. Exclusive to the PS5 and Series X is a ray tracing mode, which maintains 4K resolution, but drops the action to 30 FPS. In exchange, you only get ray-traced local shadows, which doesn't really seem like a smart trade-off to me. Were I to come back to this game and play it on a console, I'd almost certainly be rocking that 4K 60. No matter which platform you're playing on, console or PC, today's announcement also heralds the arrival of patch 1.5, which brings substantial gameplay changes and what CD Projekt Red described as thousands of bug fixes and improvements. On the gameplay side, you can expect fully reworked perk trees, which is good because the old trees were really bad. There are changes to enemy AI to make them more intelligent and believable, both in combat settings and in large-scale crowds. There's new apartments you can claim and decorate, there's new driving physics at work, a rebalancing of the whole game economy, and so much more. From the sounds of things, none of this is going to change the mind of the people who firmly believe that Cyberpunk is utter, irredeemable trash, just this completely worthless product in every facet. These seem to be tweaks and refinements for people who are on the fence or are perhaps waiting for a few updates to roll through. I've always liked Cyberpunk, as unpopular a position as that may be, so I'm glad this update gives people a gentle nudge to experience it. It's a deeply flawed game in many aspects, and nothing will change that, but I also think it's a very worthwhile experience. So if you've been holding off until fixes arrive, then this might be the right time to jump in if the update actually works. Again, I don't know, that remains to be seen. Not since Cyberpunk have we seen a game with this much hype. Elden Ring. The next opus from FromSoft drops next week, and this week PC fans were aghast to see early PC specs revealed that were a little on the high side. The specs were quickly removed, giving the Master Race a brief moment of hope, but in a classic Souls-like move, FromSoft uploaded the same specs just days later. It's like the ape boss in Sekiro all over again. You think you're in the clear, and then boom, he gets up and starts beating you to death with his own severed head. The specs are, yeah, they're on the high side. CPU, GPU, RAM requirements, they're all well and truly above what many other PC games these days are asking for, especially a game like this, which, you know, it's running on an older engine at this point. It's not exactly cutting edge. Anyway, hopefully your PC can run it, otherwise it might be time to hit up Scalper for a new GPU. Or a console. I'm just kidding. PC people don't do that. Hey, remember Scalebound, the Microsoft exclusive Platinum game that had that banging trailer but then just kind of disappeared into development hell before eventually being cancelled? Well, the chief game designer, Hideki Kamiya, hasn't given up hope on it and is now publicly calling for Uncle Phil to come to the rescue. Last week, when talking to IGN Japan, Kamiya said that a lot of work had been put into the title in the past, and he said that that was pretty useless to Microsoft in its current form. Quote, "Phil, let's do it together," end quote. Many wondered if he was joking, but it turns out he wasn't. He doubled down on those comments this week, saying that he was totally serious about resurrecting the title. Quote, "That's something that I thought I'd been saying or had been trying to say for years now. I've said it in interviews before and got no reaction, but now finally I've got a big reaction and I was glad to see that. But no, it's not a joke, I'm totally serious about it." Yeah, kind of funny that this guy's been saying this for years and all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh wait, so you were serious? Okay, cool." He refused to confirm or deny if he was actually in talks with Microsoft about this right now, which is kind of telling in itself, I think. So yeah, watch this space, I guess. That's not the only Platinum news we got this week. Recently, the company's leadership has made clear their plans to focus more on live service titles, or at least titles that have a longer lifespan than their typically short character action games. The upcoming Babylon's Fall fits into that bracket, but the comments from leadership indicate we can expect more multiplayer live service games in the future as well. It comes as acquisition fever grips the industry, and the Platinum CEO has made public that they would be open to discussions about being acquired so long as their freedom could be guaranteed. There have been rumblings for some time now that Platinum have struggled internally with a number of projects, so it is possible that those acquisition discussions are already happening. So yeah, once again, watch this space. One developer that's had no shortage of troubles, drama, and controversy of late is blockchain game publisher Ubisoft, who opened this week's No Fucking Thanks segment with the news that they've added their beloved Rabbids to a shitty pseudo video game known as The Sandbox, which is just a space for speculative NFT and crypto nonsense. It's a partnership so crappy and half-baked, it's not even worth talking about or explaining. The point is, Ubisoft staff hate it, just like they hate all the other NFT bullshit that Ubisoft management are pushing. This week, a report from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg pulled back the curtain on the internal war being waged within Ubisoft as passionate game makers try to rein in management's avaricious stupidity and propensity to self-own. Messages on the internal staff message board respond to NFT announcements with stuff like, quote, "It's a deeply embarrassing day to work for Ubisoft," end quote. Another wrote, quote, "Are we competing with EA for the most hated game studio by the public title? Because this is how you do it," end quote. Fucking based. As bad as all this NFT shit is, it's actually not the worst thing going on at Ubisoft right now. That title goes to all the workplace harassment that has plagued the company for years and has still not been properly addressed. This week, employee group A Better Ubisoft put out a public letter saying that Ubisoft's management have met precisely 0 of their demands in the 200 days since they put them to Ubisoft. Their demands include stopping abusers from being promoted and relocated, a strategy Ubisoft employs as often as the Catholic Church, as well as a seat at the table when it comes to important decisions affecting staff welfare. Reasonable demands that Ubisoft leadership have remained all but silent about. You get the feeling that Ubisoft's head honchos are just trying to ride this out. Let's hope they don't get the chance to do that. These weren't the only abuse claims coming from a company driving an NFT agenda this week. Funny how those things go hand in hand, isn't it? Last week, Worms developer and indie game publisher Team 17 were publicly dragged when they announced and then abandoned a gaudy NFT program, and it looks like management's big brain moment opened a real can of worms. Okay, sorry about that. Following on from the public outcry and internal resistance, Eurogamer spoke to a number of current and former Team 17 staff members who described working conditions that are sadly all too familiar. QA staff being paid an absolute pittance, some of them unable to afford 3 meals a day, promised staff bonuses being cut in a year of record profits, instances of sexual harassment and workplace bullying being dismissed by HR, the general overwork of staff suffering to meet the demands of shareholders who demand infinite growth and return on investment. It's a story we've seen from so many big publishers and developers, but it stings that little bit more to see it occurring here in what we thought was just a wholesome indie publisher. Team 17 CEO Michael Patterson has responded to the report saying, quote, "Action has to be taken," end quote, but we've certainly heard that before from other CEOs, so the proof is in the pudding on that one. To be fair, a number of staff spoke with Eurogamer saying that they were cautiously optimistic about the CEO's response, so hopefully something comes of it. Alright, let's pivot to some good news. Lost Ark. Man, no one could have seen that one coming, right? Well, not really actually. The game has been available in other markets for years now and it's been wildly successful over there, so it was reasonable to expect a strong launch over here as well. I don't think anyone could have predicted just how massive this launch would be, however. This is a true story. Lost Ark now holds the number 2 spot in the history of Steam concurrent play accounts, eclipsed only by the absolute absurdity of 3.5 million people playing PUBG back at launch. Lost Ark has now beaten the records of both Dota and CSGO with 1.3 million concurrent players. Absolute insanity for a free-to-play MMO at a time when people are still trying to argue that the MMO is dead. The servers have certainly buckled under the load, but it hasn't been a catastrophe. They've kept it together, just allowing millions and millions of people to experience what many are saying is excellent, including my editor Austin, who this week completely lost his life to this video game. He forced me to set aside a segment of our weekly news show, and while I was at first resistant, I remembered that he edits these videos, so he was just going to insert it anyway. So here it is, our second ever editor's choice. Take it away, Austin.
Alright, Lost Ark. I've put about 50 hours into the game now. Let's talk about it. The story and writing, comically bad. The questing, also quite uninspired. But even still, the locations and set pieces the story will take you through are fucking breathtaking. This game is so gorgeous. I mean, look at the screen. I find myself so often blown away by this game's art. But combat is where the game really shines. It feels fucking awesome. It's fast, it's flashy, it's weighty, and the sound design is meaty as hell.
You must endure.
If you like buildcraft, you'll have a field day here. It's fantastic. Every ability has its own little upgrade tree, allowing you to combine modifiers in any order you choose to fit your playstyle. I can make a single target skill instead pull enemies into an area, or I can make my leap call down a lightning field. Amazing. But let's talk dungeons. Holy shit. The dungeons in this game are just insane. Crazy spectacle. They're so varied in gameplay, the mob density is ridiculous, and most of the boss encounters are really, really well designed. Everything I'm describing here doesn't even scratch the surface of what this game offers. There's so much here that I don't even have time to talk about. The PvP, the hectic rift mode, this solo tower climb thing, Monster Hunter style boss hunts, your island estate, and sailing between all these unique themed islands with their own quest lines. The bottom line is, this game is just fun. No matter what content you're doing, it's always fun because it's underpinned by amazing combat and gorgeous visuals. Whether this holds up and isn't dragged down by the monetization in the endgame remains to be seen, but for now, I'm having a wild time, and you can experience everything I've just described without paying a single cent. That is a pretty good deal if I do say so myself.
And they call me Shillup. Jesus, was that block sponsored, Austin? Do I have to add a disclaimer to this video so I don't get shreked by the FTC? You sound like me talking about Destiny. Disgusting. The only difference is people actually like Lost Ark and they want to hear about it. You guys excited for Witch Queen, by the way? No? Just me? Okay. Look, let's wrap this up with some Nintendo news. This week, Nintendo held one of their webinars in which they showcased a bunch of stuff coming out in the next few months, and I gotta say, it was pretty impressive. Biggest announcement was a release date for the highly anticipated Hollow Knight Silksong, which I have right in front of me here in this envelope. I'm gonna open it up now. It reads, Silk on D's nuts. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Team Cherry. Keep up the great work. Fucking Team Cherry. Anyway, even though Silksong was a no-show, there were other games which were show. Fire Emblem Warriors was a real emotional roller coaster as fans were excited to see another Fire Emblem game before they saw the word Warriors and they all sunk back into their chairs. Mario Strikers looks pretty damn good, to be honest. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot got a release date, April 18th. There's a new Disney Mario Kart-esque on the way called Disney Speedstorm. No Man's Sky is coming to the Switch, somehow. They've been evasive on the question of whether or not this is cloud-based, which leads me to think that it is, because if it wasn't, I think they'd be crowing about that pretty loudly. Still, as Jesse always said, cloud's better than nothing, I guess. Portal 1 and 2 are both being ported to the Switch, which is nice. One of the chunkier announcements was for Metroid Dread, which is getting a new update that adds both an easy mode and a hard mode, where all damage is a one-shot. No thanks, I'm good. Nintendo knew how much fans have been frothing for any news on Mario Kart 9, and they did not disappoint when they announced a year's worth of DLC for Mario Kart 8. A full 48 tracks are coming to the game over the next 12 months, all of them remasters of previously released tracks from prior titles. Nintendo desperately hopes this will shut us up for at least a little while, and it just might be crazy enough to work. The announcement that got me in the feels was for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, if you know me, you know I'm not a big JRPG dude, but for some reason, the Xenoblade franchise really clicks with me. I absolutely loved 1 and X. I actually didn't play too much of 2, but yeah, I love seeing this revealed, and seeing that it's arriving in September, that's way sooner than I would have expected, and that's fantastic. You might have noticed that I left one announcement out of my little rundown here. Don't worry. We'll come back to that one later. So, what got announced or delayed this week? Well, here's something kind of cool. Harry Potter Magic Awakened has been confirmed for a Western release sometime this year. Now, this is actually the highest grossing mobile game in mainland China in 2021, a market that already spends a hell of a lot of money on mobile games. This is a PvE deck building card battler where you customize your personal wizard, you take up residence in Hogwarts and throw down against a range of baddies using spells represented by cards. It's got a really nice looking art style, definitely a step up from a lot of other mobile games on the market, and the initial feedback from people playing it is that it's a pretty great game. It's strictly mobile for the moment, and it's in closed beta, but you can sign up on either Android or iOS, and hopefully you'll get in. Something to tide Harry Potter stands over until Hogwarts Hogwarts Legacy arrives later this year. Salt and Sanctuary was a 2D Souls-like that did well for itself when it released a few years back. A sequel, Salt and Sacrifice, was confirmed a little while ago, but now it has a release date, May 10th, coming exclusively to both PlayStation and PC via the Epic Store. No word yet on other platforms or Steam, but you have to assume it'll make it to those platforms at some point since the previous game was multi-platform. It's not an announcement per se, but we do have an official confirmation that Ubisoft are working on a new AAA Heroes of Might and Magic game. The news comes from a job posting in Ubisoft's Shanghai studio, who are looking for a brand manager to support the title. It's unclear if this will be a classically inspired tile-based, turn-based strategy game like the heyday of the franchise, or some other genre set in the Might and Magic world. I'm hoping for the former because I dumped thousands of hours into those old games and I'd love to see that franchise make a return to glory. One confirmed strategy game on the way is currently going by the name of Project M, and it's from Subnautica developer Unknown Worlds. The news comes from the developer's new owner, Crafton, who said the studio was working on a turn-based strategy game set in a sci-fi universe. Like previous Unknown Worlds games, it's hitting early access sometime this year. We've had Nickelodeon Smash, we're getting Warner Brothers Smash, now it looks like we're getting Lego Smash. Lego Brawls was revealed this week, and it appears to be exactly what it says on the tin. Lego characters brawling. Can't say I'm not into that though, as Lego seems like an all-too-perfect fit for the Smash formula. No release date for this one yet, but it is promised for northern summer this year. One title I was extremely excited to see in the furry flesh was The Wolf Among Us 2, the long awaited sequel to one of Telltale's defining games. I can't decide if I like Tales from the Borderlands more or Wolf Among Us. I like them both for different reasons, I think. Point is, The Wolf Among Us is an absolute classic. If you haven't played it, please go back. It still holds up today. Seeing this sequel was really nice. Again, no specific release date for this one, but it is promised to be releasing on all platforms sometime next year. Finally, the only delay announcement this week was from Larian Studios, who served up the disappointing news that Baldur's Gate 3 probably won't be out this year. This has already been in early access since 2020, and some were hopeful that it might be finalized last year. That was never going to happen. A 2022 release date seemed very possible, but those hopes were dashed when the game's creative director told Eurogamer, quote, "We do still think we have a year of development ahead of us, so it's unlikely it will be this year, 2022, but we are at the end, so we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel now. We have a pretty concrete plan," end quote. A bummer, but, you know, take your time, guys. We've waited like 20 years for a sequel, so we can wait one more. Alright, let's do the review roundup for the week. We actually covered a bunch of these last week, like Oli Oli World and Sifu, which both launched to critical acclaim, so good on them. We also talked earlier about Lost Ark, or more specifically, Austin just gushed about it because he's an MMO fiend who can't help himself. The only other release from last week we haven't covered is CrossfireX, and boy oh boy, this one didn't go so well. You might recall this is actually a free-to-play multiplayer shooter, which is huge in Asia. Microsoft saw that success and thought it would be a good idea to bring it over to the West, publishing it here exclusive to Xbox consoles and adding a single-player campaign mode made by Remedy of all studios. Turns out that not even Remedy could save this one, as the game currently sits at a paltry 41 on OpenCritic, making it perhaps the lowest rated Microsoft published game that I can think of. I mean, even Crackdown 3 hit 63. Balan Wonderworld, universally agreed to be the worst game of 2021, sits at 49 for God's sake. So you can see how far Microsoft done fall on this one. IGN delivered an absolutely savage 3 out of 10 review for this, saying, quote, "CrossfireX's pair of single-player shooter campaigns are sloppy, soulless, and mercifully brief." End quote. Ouch. While Windows Central were no less charitable, scoring at a 40, saying, quote, "Hints of a solid, finished shooter shine in CrossfireX at times, but at the end of the day, all you're getting is a short, average campaign and a multiplayer experience that lacks content and feels torn between two worlds," end quote. Microsoft are making many big bets and many big plays right now. It was inevitable that at least one of them didn't pan out. Chin up, Phil. You're still giving us Starfield Day 1 on Game Pass, so we can't stay mad at you for long. So, what's coming out this week? Dude, fucking everything, my god. So, we've already spoken about the next-gen update and major patch for Cyberpunk 2077. That's live right now, so you can either start playing immediately or do what I'm doing. Wait for Digital Foundry's tech analysis. Gonna be very keen to see that one. If you're still into those Muso game things, then Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires arrived on all platforms on the 15th. This was previously available on PC but didn't have English localization. Steam reviews aren't too kind, with the game sitting at 45% positive, not great. Critic scores aren't much better, with the game sitting at 64 on OpenCritic, Push Square gave it a very mid 5 out of 10, saying, quote, "There is an addictive hack and slash co-op loop at work here, and it's tempered by some decent visual tweaks, but to fully enjoy it, you're going to have to wade through a mire of shockingly ugly visuals and boring battlefield design," end quote. The best review, though, came from Softpedia.com, who said, quote, "Unfortunately, Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires is clearly a title that's first and foremost aimed at fans, and to them, it just feels like a half-baked release. Koei should have used the one extra year for further polishing, so be ready for an avalanche of negative reviews when the game launches tomorrow," end quote. Their final score? 9 out of 10. What the hell, man? So how does that work? Anyway, back when Assassin's Creed was about, assassins, the Ezio trilogy rode high as a universally beloved franchise. If you haven't yet experienced it, or you'd like to experience it again on the go, then the full trilogy of games is arriving on the Nintendo Switch tomorrow. King of Fighters 15 arrives on all platforms but the Switch tomorrow as well. I'm not a fighting games guy at all. It's a massive blind spot in my gaming knowledge, so I'm not going to pretend to know anything about this one, other than that the reviews are positive. It's sitting at an impressive 82 on OpenCritic. IGN's resident fighting games dude Mitchell Saltzman reviewed this one, scoring it an 8 out of 10, saying, quote, "The King of Fighters 15 still feels left in the past when it comes to single-player offerings, but what it lacks in ambition, it makes up in solid fundamentals and great netcode that make the online experience the best the series has ever seen," end quote. Strategy peeps, I know you've been looking forward to this one. Total War Warhammer 3 arrives tomorrow, exclusive to the PC, and it's actually launching day one on Game Pass for PC as well. Not a bad deal. I'm yet to watch the mammoth 1 hour long Mandalore review, but the mainstream publications are certainly giving it a big thumbs up, with the game sitting at a mighty 89 on OpenCritic. Eurogamer recommended the title, saying, quote, "Warhammer 3 is Creative Assembly's most maximalist, chaotic, and arguably best game to date, but it'll ask a lot of you in return," end quote. And PC Gamer also loved it, scoring at a 90, saying, quote, "A brilliant final act with the series' most inventive and unusual factions yet," end quote. Great to see Creative Assembly sticking the landing on their ambitious strategy trilogy. The final big release of the week is one that I have both played and reviewed, Horizon Forbidden West. Now listen, this is a fucking great video game, alright? For reals. This is some good shit right here. I really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn, but it certainly had its fair share of problems. Forbidden West fixes most of those and then amplifies the production values like 3 or 4 times. I can't believe how big this is, how many new enemies and weapons there are, how much great side content there is, and how stunning it looks. Like, I don't think I've seen a better open world than maybe Cyberpunk, but that's a complicated comparison for a lot of reasons. Honestly, this is a tour de force for both the artistry and design work of Guerrilla Games and the power of the PS5. If you have a PS5, you are low-key crazy if you are not picking this one up. It's genuinely unmissable. I'm not the only one that thinks that, by the way. The game sits at around 89 on OpenCritic, which funnily enough is an identical score to its predecessor, which is weird because it's a better game in almost every aspect. Reviews are 9s and 10s across the board, except for one Australian publication, Stevivor, who gave it a 6.5. People were pretty mad about that. That's a pretty low score for what this game is, I think, but hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I mean, I don't like Lost Judgment or Deathloop. We've all got our things that we don't like that everybody else likes. Point is, Horizon Forbidden West rules. I'll leave a link to my review below the like button. Hey, put this on your radar.
Are you ready to start playing with physics? Eradication, no pre-canned gimmicks. Well, come enjoy the satisfying sensation. A forceful structure, annihilation. Islands, horrid shanty towns, concrete and steel. Let's tear it all down. Let alone ancient ruins, just let them stand tall. Historically important, so they better not fall. Isometric viewpoints with tilt shift blurring. We got some explosions, collapses occurring. Everything must fall. Ignore all obstruction. Instruments of destruction.
Okay, so first of all, this song absolutely slaps. Every game should have a catchy tune that describes on-screen action. It worked for Retired Men's Nude Beach Volleyball League. It's working here. This is Instruments of Destruction, and it takes me back to those very fond memories of playing Blast Corps on Nintendo 64. What a game. And like, what the hell? No follow-up? No other game that tried to pick up where that left off? What's up with that? Instruments of Destruction isn't exactly analogous to Blast Corps, but it's doing something similar. The aim is to demolish buildings as fast as possible. The key difference here is that you are designing and building your instruments of destruction, with certain designs working better for specific structures. This is a self-published indie title, and the developers are doing one hell of a job marketing this game because I've seen it profiled in a few different places now. Always great to see when indie devs achieve that sort of cut-through. This one is hitting early access on March 2nd, so you can try it for yourself then, or you can wishlist it right now, which I always recommend doing since it helps out indie devs the same way that subscribing to a YouTube channel helps out a YouTuber. Like and subscribe. Sorry about that. Sort of free stuff time now. Quick and quiet month, so let's get to it. First up is the Epic Games Store, who are this week giving away Windbound. As I mentioned last week, I played this one. It's okay. Chilled nautical exploration combined with some hunting and gathering. The real highlight is building and selling your raft, which feels like if Mass Effect's Mako could float. I'm not joking, by the way, but it's actually fun. So yeah, that's an improvement on the Mako. On the 18th, Epic's free game ticks over to Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Before Joseph Fares had his own studio and made A Way Out, or Game of the Year winner It Takes Two, Fares made this, a touching story-driven co-op adventure game where you control two brothers. I looked this one up on Steam and I saw a curator review from the late great Total Biscuit that reads, quote, "My top game of 2013 and probably of all time, a truly unique game in which you control a pair of brothers on a quest to save their father. Powerful," end quote. More than enough reason to check it out right there. The only other stuff worth talking about this week is the monthly Game Pass refresh. The Mass Effect Trilogy Legendary Edition arrives on cloud, so now you can play Mass Effect on the go. That's pretty cool, to be honest. There's a baseball game there. If the Super Bowl puts you in the mood, there's Madden as well. Alice Madness Returns hits PC, as does Total War Warhammer 3, which we mentioned earlier. Galactic Civilizations 3 is a 4X strategy game, in case Warhammer is a little too terrestrial and real-time for your tastes. The last title is RoboQuest, which is an early access title that I've been keeping an eye on. It's a first-person shooter roguelike with a nice cel-shaded aesthetic. Reviews for it have been very positive since day dot, and it isn't even close to being finished yet, so this one seems like a good one if you're someone that likes to get in on the ground floor of things. Earlier, you may recall that in our little Nintendo Direct roundup, there was one big-mouthed omission, Kirby. Now, there was a reason for that. The feel-good story for the week is like Nick at Night, where I stash all my saucy content after the kids have clicked off earlier in the video. For what could be saucier than something called mouthful mode? I mean, Nintendo knew what they were doing here, but they did it anyway. It's like Lady Dimitrescu all over again. The Big Ant's latest take on Kirby has already birthed a number of memes, most of which I can't show you lest my channel be immediately deleted. Some of the finer G-rated takes have been doing the rounds, but top honors has to go to YouTuber Razor MC, who somehow, within the space of like a day, managed to mod the mouthful mode car into Mario Kart. Take a look. Now listen, if Nintendo can do a Mario Kart DLC where they ship 48 tracks, then they can add one official mouthful mode car to the game. At the very least, I demand its inclusion in Mario Kart 9. So look forward to that in like, I don't know, 2028 or something. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the show, and as always, a huge thank you for watching. I really am running on nothing but adrenaline and Red Bull right now as I try to crunch my way through the most stacked review period in the history of my channel. So please, 1 like equals 1 hour of sleep for me in March, when I can finally rest. If you are keen for that Elden Ring review dropping next week, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and ding the notification bell so you'll know the minute that video goes live. You know what else is next week? Destiny 2 Witch Queen. And what if I told you that you could get it right now for 20% off? Well, you can, thanks to Green Man Gaming, who have hooked me up with a special discount that gives you 20% off almost anything on their website, including Destiny's latest expansion. It's just 20% cheaper than buying it from Steam, no strings attached. If you haven't heard of Green Man Gaming before, then you have been missing out. I've been buying stuff from them for years because they always offer excellent prices on PC titles, but they're not a grey market key reseller. Every single key they sell has been sourced directly from the publisher themselves, so there's no scammy stolen keys that end up getting cancelled weeks or months after you've bought them. It's 100% legit, all the money goes directly to the publisher and all the savings go directly to you. The Witch Queen key you would be purchasing is just a regular old Steam key. You just get it for 20% off, so you know, that's a pretty cool deal. But of course, there are lots of other games too. Not that Destiny people play other games, but for everybody else, you can peruse their extensive library of titles, almost all of which will be discounted by up to 20% thanks to that discount code. They also run regular sales with even deeper discounts, so it's always a good idea to check back regularly and see what Green Man are up to. Over 6 million gamers have purchased from Green Man Gaming over the years. That's a lot of people. Green Man Gaming have over 9,000 games in their library. that's a lot of games. A pile of shame can never be too high, so pile it sky high with Green Man Gaming. Don't forget to use offer code FEB20 at checkout to get that 20% off. Thank you, Green Man Gaming, for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.